Hi,
start with
everybody.
Damon.
Man of the people. That's exactly it. I appreciate that.
Hey, Dan, over here. Any added emotions for the night? Having played with the Galaxy so many years ago, and now you're leading the group for a night at least?
Yeah, there was added emotion. I mean, I'm glad we won. I didn't want to have to face Greg in the locker room with the loss. I certainly didn't want to do that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun being there and stepping up and coaching the team. But it's easy, right? Any of the assistant coaches, right, could do the same job. Greg does a great job mentoring us. We spend a lot of time working out on the training field. So the game is the showcase, right? The work's been done, and yeah, it was nice being out there tonight.
You look at the showcase, you see Joseph getting a hat trick. How did you see his night sort of develop there? And then the group as a whole. You guys created a lot of chances, scored 4. You're probably greedy. You probably want more than that, but you know.
Yeah, we probably could have had more than that, but don't need to be greedy. It's great to see Joe scoring goals. You know, Kansas City play an interesting way, right? Tactically, they send both fullbacks high, right? That exposes a team, right? And it's no blame on Kansas City. They're a wonderful team, and that's just how they play. But it opens them up when they lose the ball. And, you know, with Joe's speed and Gabe's ability to get wide, it can cause people trouble. And I felt like we did a nice job of exposing certain areas when, you know, they sent players forward. So I thought we did a nice job with that. But, you know, guys were on today. You know, whether, you know, it was just, you know, a typical night that, you know, their coach was up. I'm sure that gave them incentive. They wanted to win for Greg, right, who was watching the game. I think that incentivized them, that they, you know, watching from up top, he can see all. And, you know, they worked hard tonight. They deserved the W.
Hey, Coach, thanks for your time. Congratulations on the win as well. You mentioned Greg kind of like looking from on high. You were also in another position as well. Did you happen to notice anything different from your point of view, from your changed point of view this evening, or was it, you know, more of the same?
Kind of more of the same. I stood up more. I usually don't stand up as much when, you know, I'm the assistant, so I stood up and, you know, tried to get the team going at times where I felt like we were a little sluggish. But that's what Greg does, right? So yeah, it was different in that way. But again, I would reiterate that, you know, the work's been done already, right? Like, these guys know what's coming at them. They're prepared. They know what we need to do to be at our best. And then it's just kind of reminding them at times, right, that this is what we need to do.
Amito made his return tonight.
Rusty, man. He looked awfully rusty to me.
I was just about to ask you what you thought of his performance and what he brings back to this defense.
Amiro's wonderful, right? He's wonderful, and he's still a young defender, and it's great to have him back. But what he brings is, you know, he's tenacious, and he has speed that is second to none in this league. So that's what he brings. You know, he's been out with an injury, and we're trying to get him back, and hopefully he'll be back for Wednesday. But, you know, he looked a little rusty. That's just fair.
Speaking of Wednesday, what would you like to see improved defensively before the team goes into that title?
I thought in the first half we had a difficult time dealing with Kansas City straight down the middle, right? I felt like they were kind of playing either Decky or Mason, right, the other striker, and they were just kind of combining right through us. So I thought, you know, we just got to make sure that our pivots are staying connected with our center backs, that our forwards are staying connected with our pivots and not getting extended, and just be kind of tighter defensively.
Hey, Coach, thanks for talking to us. Congrats on the win.
My pleasure.
So, Mauricio Cuevas, 2 assists tonight, another wonderful performance. I mean, it just seems like this kid is getting better and better every single day. The biggest thing, really, that we've seen is his decision-making in the final third. I mean, you see that for the first goal, right? Instead of taking the shot himself, lays it off. I mean, just talk to us about his growth as a person, as a player, and what you think that next level is for him. Is it just being better in the final third and just, you know, taking the paces every day?
Yeah, Mauricio was not rusty. He was sharp as can be, and he has been, and he's having a wonderful year. He had a wonderful game. You know, he attacks so beautifully, and he's got great timing. He can cross a ball as good as anyone in this league. But yeah, I think you raise a good point as far as, better decisions in that final third, finding the guy maybe a little better, what he can improve upon. We all can improve on our group to be better one-on-one defenders, to be better team defenders. There's occasions where sometimes our outside guys, Mauricio included, can get backdoored with a run. But all in all, Moro's coming along beautifully, and he's blossoming, and he's tenacious, right? He's a competitive kid, and he just wants to be out there, and he wants to compete. And again, he was able to find room, right, with Gabe coming inside and Mauricio coming around. That's a difficult combination, especially if you're playing in, let's say, a 4-4-2, and that guy's more of a winger, right? He doesn't really want to defend. He wants to kind of attack, right? It's very difficult for the opposition then, and Mauricio really hurt them tonight.
Hi, Coach. First off, for fans maybe not as familiar with yourself, could you please give us some insight as to your role, the kind of work you do with players, planning, roster decisions?
My name is Dan Calichman. I was born February 21st, 1968. That makes me pretty old. I was around when the Galaxy started in 1996. Rumor has it I was the first captain. I played center back. I don't know what more you want. I have 3 children. My role is, right, I'm one of the assistant coaches for Greg. I've been with Greg since he moved to Toronto. I have been fortunate enough to stay with him when he moved to the Galaxy. That he took me with him. There's no greater pleasure for me to be coaching the Galaxy, since this is the club that I first played for, and it's a privilege every day I go out there, and I'm just, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. So hopefully you've learned enough about me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. My dad was, he's around your age. He was there watching you in that 96 season. So.
Yeah, he's a fan?
Yes, sir.
I love your dad.
He loves you. But something else, just talking about these younger players. We just mentioned Mauricio Cuevas, but players like Harbor Miller, Elijah Winder, Rindov, they've really stepped in recently, and it feels like they're ready for this level. Does that kind of open up some options in terms of planning roster decisions for next year?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, that all comes into play, but they've all doing really well. Harbor's been, right, wonderful. Ruben came in today and played great. Cuevas, we talked about already. Listen, Amiro Garces is a young kid, right? 22, 23 maybe. We have some young guys. This group of players is only going to get better. Who else? Kids coming out of Galaxy 2, right? There are some talented players coming out of there as well. So I feel like, again, this is Greg's influence, right? First team, but then making sure that kind of through the academy, we're all playing a similar way. So when they move from one team to the next, it's the same style of play. So they don't have to really relearn. They just have to make decisions faster, right? And that's a lot easier than trying to learn new systems and have a million things in your head. You're just trying to play the game faster, right? Because the higher you go up, the faster the game gets.
How different was it, Greg, to sit and watch instead of being on the sideline?
It's hard to sit up there and not feel like you're have influence, but the view's better. Like, seeing the game from up there is better than seeing the game from field level, but the disconnection is difficult. So we don't want to do that too many more times.
Just your thoughts on first of all, the start. Joseph gets the early goal. You guys get 3 there. Just your thoughts on how the attack looked and you guys looked in defense as well.
Yeah, I thought it was great to get off to a quick start and get an early goal. Set piece. The game was just really like back and forth early in the game, and I felt like both teams gassed out pretty early for the start, and then had to regroup a little bit because it was just ball was just going through midfield so easily either direction. And in the first 15 minutes, I felt like there wasn't a flow to the game. There was an attack and then a series of set pieces, and then attack, kind of a series of set pieces, stuff like that. So, but it was good. It was good. Really important just to, in a game like today, getting on top of the game early is important. Then getting the second one. I felt like if we could have kept our foot on the gas a little bit more, then I feel like we had the chance to maybe pick up the third and really kind of, I don't know, bury them a little bit earlier. I know when you get to this part of the season and you're not playing for anything and you're on the road, and if you can get on top of a team early, it can set the tempo and for the day. So I felt like we had some chances. Then, of course, Dayon finds some space facing forward, and the classy finish that we're all used to seeing from Dayon, just slotted it away to the near post, brought them back within one, obviously, but we were able to pull away. Joe had some really good looks. I think the one that he hit off the post, for me, was probably the best team attack of the entire night. Just was a really good action off of the right side, and the movement was really coordinated and smart, and Gabe slipped him in. It was a great, or actually it was the cutback, I think. It was the cutback one. But it was for me, it was one of the best attacks of all night, and we weren't able to, a little unfortunate not to finish it. But again, I think it was good to pick up the next goals. I think it just, once you get ahead, you get up 3-1, 4-1, then I feel like you're managing the game a little bit more, and that's a positive. I did feel, going back to the beginning of the game when it was open, I felt like if we could have done a little better job of when we broke the pressure and we got deep into their half of the field, if we weren't in such a rush sometimes to try to hit the big ball and to finish it, because they had two strikers on the field and two pretty attacking wide midfielders or wingers, who we didn't really make defend much in the early part of the game because we were rushing the attacks, not finishing clean. Then those guys were kind of cheating and hanging out because we weren't forcing them to come back and defend, and that's what the game was, getting the game back and forth. So we could have managed it a little bit better so that it wasn't quite so open, and forced them to have to defend lower in their half of the field. But I felt like we sniffed the opportunity to score goals, and we kept going for it, and so that kind of opened it up a little bit at times.
Hey, Greg, thanks so much for talking to us. Where did you actually watch the game from? Are you at liberty to say?
Yeah, I was in one of the radio boxes. I think it was like 4 or something. It was quite just behind our bench in one of those boxes. So good view, almost midfield. Pretty much where I would have been standing, just a lot higher.
So you recommend reaching out to the ticket reps, okay? Exactly. So Joseph had that first half hat trick, obviously. What led to his success, and how important is it to get him going like that before Toluca on Wednesday?
Yeah, again, I think the spaces that were available for him to run through and attack, some of them in transitions. A couple where we were, a couple of his opportunities, again, came off of good sort of organized movements where we were able to find him coming in from an angle in front of the goal. So I felt like when the game is open like that and there's space, it's just going to play into Joe's hands because of his pace and his ability to get in behind and to see the channels very wide open. So I think that's a big part of it. And I felt like when we did break lines and we did get into the forward movement of our attacks, then things started to go pretty fast. I didn't feel like we got bogged down in the top end of our attacks. There's times when I felt like we were a little slow at the start of the attacks, but once we got through the lines, I felt like we were going to try to go to goal. We weren't slowing the game down too much. A little more execution in some of those actions, and there was a handful, probably more chances and goals for us if we would have been just a little cleaner in a few of those.
Along those lines, on the chances missed, it seems like Gabriel Peck got a couple of chances over there on his wing as well. Didn't really get anything from it, even though he obviously put in the work. What do you think is missing from that final action or that final moment for him to go ahead and be successful?
Yeah, I think, he's been, last week we sat down and watched all of his actions, his final actions. Sometimes just technically, I think he's almost trying to be too perfect with it, and sometimes I think he can go at it with a little more force and not try to be perfect, but put a little more on it. And because I think when he's trying to finish it and curl it so much, a little power comes off of it, and the keeper is able to get across or dive, make a save, things like that. There's something technically that I would love for him to shift a little bit in his final action. But I think we're trying to work through it on the training ground, just for him again to be more aggressive when he goes to hit the final shot or the final play there. The other is that I think for him a couple more times, if he would make a pass and then make the run after the pass towards the goal, I do think we would find him a couple more times in finishing chances. I think we missed him a couple times as well, which probably frustrated him as well. So I think he's just got to keep working. We got to keep looking for him. And I want him to be, when he does go to strike or to finish, I'd like for him to be a little more power through the ball and try to be not quite so perfect with it sometimes. I think there's always a balance there. And I think his technique is good enough that if he hit it a little harder, he would make it tougher on the goalkeeper sometimes to get to those. So that's just my opinion anyway.
Last one for me, Greg. 3 games left, 1 point back from DC United in the wooden spoon race. Is that something you guys are focused on at all, or is it just trying to finish the season game by game and doing the best you guys can at this point?
Well, we certainly don't want to finish last, but we're definitely focused on our performances, focused on getting some players, again, as many minutes as we can get some of these young guys. It's helping them. The more Harbor plays, the more it's benefiting them, the more even guys like Maudy and others, Ruben getting some time. Ruben could have scored a couple goals tonight, right? He was in a couple of really good spots. So Elijah, the more games he gets, probably the more his starting position for next year will be just in a better spot as he comes into camp. So we're trying to balance off, again, continuing to do the things that we think are going to help us long term while we're trying to win these games in the short term. We get some tough games. Obviously, Dallas's future depends on our games with them. And so it seems like they're just on the outside of the playoff picture with 2 games against us. And so, and then we'll finish with Minnesota, who's going to be probably vying for positioning maybe and who they're going to play. There's the head coach right there. So we got 3 tough games, 3 tough games, and we're certainly playing to win them, but we also have some long-term things we're trying to focus on as well. Hopefully we get some guys healthy too. Nasi's closer. Marco was in training, and then we decided to keep him out, and he decided this wasn't the right game, maybe Wednesday. Let's see. Obviously, we got Julian and Amiro back in. Christian's getting closer. Lucas isn't quite as close as the other guy. So hopefully as we get down the stretch, those guys will also get be a little more available just to finish it off.
Hi, Coach. I'm wondering if I could ask you about the red card real quick. We had a little bit of a discussion. I'm assuming where you were sitting, you had access to a replay, hopefully. It looks like he comes in, knows that he can't get to the ball. At the same time, there's not a whole lot of contact with the shoulder or the cleats. What did you see in that play? Was that the right call in your mind?
Yeah, it was interesting. I actually was sitting next to one of our members of our staff, and I said to him, that one fell into a weird area for me. Like, it could have been a red card. It also it could have maybe not been a red card. I think the lack of intention to just try to play the ball and to go through somebody who is kind of vulnerable as they're trying to clear a ball probably pushes it a little bit towards some kind of a red card. But I think when you talk about like real dangerous contact to the legs or something like that, I didn't see a ton of that. So it sat in a position there. If you give him a red, it's probably going to stay a red, and if you don't, then maybe it doesn't get changed. But I thought he definitely was going through his body. He wasn't trying to necessarily block the ball or anything like that. So I can understand it. But I understood, that it was kind of sits in that gray area maybe a little bit. Yep. I'm pretty sure I wasn't going to change the game though.